Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of CVtv Workshops. My name is Carlos, and I'm here with my co-host, David Dockin from CoralView. How are you, Dave?
Doing good, man. Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Got back in town from Denver,
Yeah.
and
Denver.
yeah, I was. We were at Reefstock for a little while, so I want to take the time to say thank you to the crew over in Denver. Everybody, including Jake Adams, for their hospitality. The after party was awesome. The food was great,
Good.
and we had a good time. And we
Good.
had a great time, and we made a lot of contacts. And it's amazing how many people came over and talked about the HYDROS and asked us about the HYDROS and
Great.
questions about it. It was really cool. It was good to see people.
Yeah.
Good to see. After
Well, we
2
should
years.
also thank the guys out on the East Coast too. We did the
Yes.
Rag Farmers Market in Connecticut, and so we want to thank Bob Winfrey and Connor especially here for going out there and doing that show for us.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun, and it's nice to get back in there, even if it's amazing though. We didn't have much. It was compared to how we usually do it, how CoralView has this big booth when a lot of equipment. This time we only had HYDROS. And honestly, I can tell you, I only had one question that was non-HYDROS related in the for the entire weekend, which was I was pretty shocked, but
Wow.
it was cool. It was cool. It was great to get people to ask you questions, and then like about half an hour later, they would come back and show me the bags of the HYDROS product that they had just purchased over at Biggs Lagoon. So big shout out to Biggs Lagoon also, because they were helping us out, and they're big HYDROS users. But it was a lot of fun. I had a great time, and Richard and I had a good time.
Yeah, I think the word is catching on. People are really seeing what all can be done with HYDROS and what we're doing here. So
absolutely. So let's start with the usual, Dave. What is the weather like in?
Oh man, it's beautiful here today. I think it's like 71 degrees, and it's a full spring day.
Are you kidding me?
Yes,
well,
nice.
it is 27 degrees here in Chicago, so try to stay warm. We still have a couple months left of winter before we get the 2 months of summer, and then we go back to winter again.
Wow.
Yes,
that's tough.
All right. So I want to say hello to, you know what? We have Sarah, we have Reef Keeper, Alex is here, Dupree is here also, Connor as well, joining us. Sawyer is here as well. So it's great to see. And Sawyer, it is 22 degrees in Kansas City.
Wow.
Oh my God. Yeah. Wow. And producer Reef is here too as well. So it was great to see you. Everybody, if you like the show, if you like what you see, if you like to join us for the next show as well, and if you're watching this on a rerun, please head on over to our YouTube or Facebook channel. You can hit the subscribe button, you can hit the bell or the thumbs up, and you'll be notified right away whenever we have another live. We do this every couple of weeks, and we sit down here, Dave and I, and answer questions and talk about reefing. If you have any questions about the products that we're covering here, you can always head on over to support.coralview.com, and you'll get one-on-one support with our tech guys in here who are always willing to help. Also, you can also head over to forum.coralviewhydros.com, where you become part of a community of fellow HYDROS users that are always willing to help. It's amazing how many people are there, and people are signing up every day, and our community is growing daily. So it's awesome to do that. So Dave, how's everything else in there? Anything good? I see the SMT machine, but it's off today, is it? Taking a break?
It's taking a break. It's too noisy to try and do the show, and it's giving him a little rest for a minute. But we got plenty boards produced, so now we're down in the HYDROS assembly room, that we call it here, where we do all the final fabrication, get stuff out the door.
Yeah. I know that we have, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but we have a new product that we're going to be releasing soon, or, very soon. But before we do that, we have this new section of the episode, or this part of the show is brought to you by, can you believe that? Marketing people is making us actually do stuff now. It's instead of talking, I actually have to read. So This episode is brought to you by, and I'm waiting for it. There you go. Episode is brought to you by MaxPick Jump Gyres. For unbeatable value, use MaxPick Jump Gyres in your aquarium, and you can say bon voyage to dead spots forever. These powerful pumps offer evenly distributed flow thanks to MaxPick's superior cross-flow technology. Check with your local fish supply store or your favorite online retailer for availability and pricing.
Yeah, that was good, Carlos. I should mention this month that we're running a sale on MaxSpec Jump products.
Absolutely, we are running a sale, and you got a little bit ahead of me on my outline here, so I have to go and look it up. That now it's like, okay, yes, so it's 20% off. So
yep.
Yes, we're running a sale right now. Is the best time to purchase a MaxPick Gyre Jump product. All Jump devices are 20% off until March 31st, 2022. No rain checks. This sale includes the brand new Jump Blue LED light.
That's it.
All right.
So it's a nice product line from MaxSpec that kind of falls into a intermediate type price point, and it's good value, good performance. So it does very well for us. So
absolutely. So Dave, what are we talking about today? What is it that we're doing? Are we doing a workshop, or what are we doing today?
Yeah, technically we are, but we're talking about our most commonly asked questions. So, you know, we see a lot of the same questions coming up, and you know, through our support groups and social media group. But we wanted to have just a show dedicated to some of these most popular questions and see if we can address those here on a live show, and also take some questions from our listeners here.
Absolutely. You know, it's and this is something that we've been thinking about for a while, is to create a show every few months that goes over frequently asked questions. So we'll cover some questions today. We may not cover them all. Probably we will not cover them all. But if you stick around and watch and subscribe, then, you know, eventually a couple months from now, we'll do another show on frequently asked questions, and we'll make it that question there. So please feel free to ask your questions today, or on the Facebook group, Coral Cares, or you can actually ask them, you know, email us, and then we'll put them in there. So if, you know, no question is a bad question, but if we see that question a lot, we'll answer it on the next show. All right. So here is the first question. Let's jump right in. Okay. So frequently asked questions. What's the main difference between the controls? They all look the same. Okay. So Dave, bring me up here. What is the big difference between the controls? Let's start with the control. What is it? The control 2.
So I think, you know, when you're trying to say what's the difference between all the controllers, it's basically it comes down to what does it do? And that in turn is the ports directly. So each device has a different amount of ports, which, you know, gives you controllability to just a certain amount of devices that we offer, such as looking at this control 2. It has 2 sense ports, 2 drive ports, and the command bus. So I think that, you know, in a nutshell, you know, we don't want to confuse everyone with all of these different devices, but our slogan is aquarium automation for everyone. Yes. So we want to try and come in with a product that appeases to everyone, regardless of what they want to do with their aquarium, and also a price point.
That's correct.
I think that really, you know, we're never going to leave somebody behind. And I really want to reiterate that. We're not going to drop one of these devices or make it to where this device you purchase is now obsolete. That's never a part of our roadmap. Correct. So I just want to say, I don't want people to feel like they're going to make the wrong decision in what they purchase. It's about what they want to do with their system.
One of the things that I noticed when I was at the trade show is, you know, after talking to people, you know, telling them about the product and explaining to them what the product did, you know, one of the biggest questions was like, okay, so which one is my starting point? You know, because they actually visually, the control X4 looks like the head unit, you know, and I think it's just because it's very difficult for people to unlearn that there is no central brain.
Correct.
So I know we've been trained for the last 20 years that you have to buy a central brain with a array of modules around it,
Hmm.
and it's very hard to untrain people to think differently. So the way I said it is like you said, it's like, what do you need? Do you need pH? Do you need not? You can start with any of the units and then add on to it. So
Correct.
every unit can be a starting point. It depends on what you're looking for. So the Control 2 has two sensors, so you can mix and match between water sensor, temperature sensor, leak detector, skimmer sensor, and so forth. And you have two drive ports, so you can add a couple of ATO pumps and maybe a couple of small lights that are 12 volts, and
Hands.
that'll get you going. It doesn't have a pH probe, so if you have a small tank that is like a 20-gallon freshwater tank, that's a perfect product for it. It can control Wi-Fi strips as well. So you can turn on those lights and turn them off, or the heater, so and and the price is incredibly reasonable. So there you go. You have a full controller for your 20-gallon tank for less than $200,
Yeah.
which no other controller in the market can do. I mean, I'm not going to pay
Oh,
$800
wow.
for a 20-gallon tank.
Right.
It's just asinine. Sorry.
Yeah, I was
Mhm.
going to, I don't foresee that you will ever see somebody else that can come to market with a controller that we can do for under $200 in
Absolutely.
the day and age. It's just the cost of everything to do it, and how we've been able to pull that off with the Wi-Fi strips. It's really a bargain when you consider the engineering that went in behind it.
Absolutely. Now, let's say that you still have that freshwater tank. It's 20 gallons, but now you're getting into your plants and you're adding plants, and then you're learning about the tank, and all of a sudden you see that you need CO2. You start adding carbon dioxide, and you want to buy a controller, or you don't have a controller. You've been doing this manually, and you want to buy a controller, but you don't want to, you don't want something big, but obviously the Control 2 is not going to work for you, because the X2 is not going to work for you because it doesn't have a pH probe. So then we jump right into the Control X3. So the X3 is kind of like the next level up. You
Yep.
can see right there, it has one pH probe, which allows you to measure the pH inside the freshwater tank. And then you have a couple of sensors. Again, you have two sensors that you can pretty much mix and match between a leak detector, a temperature sensor, a water sensor, things like that. So all of a sudden, now you're talking about $250 for a starter pack, around that area. Correct me
Two
if I'm
ninety
wrong.
nine. Two
Yeah,
ninety nine for a salt
299. Yeah, for the starter pack. Thank you. I'm a tech guy. I'm the tech guy. I don't know pricing. So now you have a $299 controller that can monitor your pH and can do things about it. Turn on and off your CO2 and so forth. So again, I don't have to go and spend $800 for a full-fledged controller when all I have is a 20-gallon planted.
Yep.
It's so again, automation for everybody. We have different levels of controllers that allow you to select at the level you are.
Yep.
So how do you like that? I mean, that X3, what we weren't even thinking about that X3 when we first
I
developed the
know.
HYDROS. It was right in the middle.
It was.
People were asking for it, and we're like, okay, we'll do it. You know.
Exactly. That's we
Hmm.
always listen in the feedback. So
Exactly. So now let's go over to the Control XS.
yep.
So now the Control XS is a controller that only has sense ports. It doesn't have any drive ports, so it doesn't take care of your small ATF pump via the drive port, but it can still control Wi-Fi strips. So you technically could potentially put that tiny little ATO pump on one of the Wi-Fi strip outlets
Hmm.
and control it. So the versatility is there, but it does give you that ability to now you have four sense ports. So you can mix and match four: temperature sensor, a water sensor, a leak detector, and maybe something else. I mean, another sensor. It could be something else, or you could have a couple of sensors. Water sensors.
I think
You
the
know.
big thing with the Control XS was, when somebody has already purchased an existing controller, to find out they needed more sense
Yes,
because they wanted to
exactly.
add more to it. And there, was your XS. That's where it was born.
Exactly. So which brings us to the next level, which is the Control X4.
Yep.
And the Control X4 is like the most, is the well-rounded one. It has a little bit of it has a little bit and a lot of everything. The Control 4, and this is why it looks like the Control 4 is the head unit, even though it's still, again, I cannot make it clear, it's not the head unit. It's just another controller that has more features integrated with it. So now you're talking about 4 sensors, 2 drive ports, 2 pH or ORP. They're interchangeable, so you can
Yep.
use either one. Then you also have four 0 to 10 volt in channels, and then you also have 4 0 to 10 out channels. So that's the most well-rounded controller. And if you have a reef tank, probably that's the one that you want to go with, because it just gives you every option and allows you to grow. You may not be monitoring 2 pH, but eventually, if you have a reef tank, you're going to install a calcium reactor or a calc reactor, and you're going to need that second pH. So it's better, it's kind of like you get more for your buck.
Correct.
But like you said, Dave, if you run out of sense ports and you need more sensors, you can just add an XS, or you can add an X2. If you want another pH probe, you can add a 3, put them together into a virtual bigger brain,
right,
and they all work. So
and keep in mind, when you add multiple devices, you're just making that your whole collective, your whole system, that much more robust.
correct.
From redundancies of failure points.
Exactly. You think of multiple, decentralizing the brain.
Yep.
So think of a grid, and then at the X spots you have little brains. If one brain were to fail, the rest of the grid will be okay and take over the control. But on a centralized brain setup, as most of the other controllers out there, you have one brain with a bunch of modules, right? But the problem is that if you lose that brain, the modules, they can't make a decision. They can't do anything. So they, in a way, you lose the modules too.
Absolutely.
So yeah. The next one is the Control X8, XP8.
Yep.
And that's the newest, that's the little kid on the block, the new kid on the block. And that one is also a full brain, and it comes with eight outlets. Each outlet is rated up to 8 amps, but the entire unit is rated up to 14 amps.
Yep.
So, which is pretty good. It's actually really good. And it's a hefty thing. And I know we have another workshop that we've done where we actually opened it up and showed the inner parts of the unit. We want it to be fully transparent. You know what? If you're going to talk about it, let me just give you, here, talk about it. I'm not hiding it. We're not hiding anything.
We're not hiding anything. And
we're not hiding anything.
Also, if you should mention the command bus, it has an internal 60-watt power supply. So then you're powering other devices through that command bus port.
Exactly. Which is
power supplies.
Which is great, because at the core of everything, almost like the phoenix of the HYDROS was trying to minimize power supplies.
Right.
That's what the wave engine was all about. And I think that if we really dig back into what the HYDROS, or how the HYDROS started, is because we were sick and tired of many power supplies.
Yep.
And it just kind of evolved into that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
What's really special about XP8 is it's a controller on its own, Carlos. You don't need anything else to go with it. There's nothing like it on the market. If you don't want any other controller, and you just want to control outlets and some feeders or another Wi-Fi strip, you can do that with this.
And what I like about it when you have a brain is that, this doesn't have fallback. And the reason why is because fallback is too limiting of a word.
Correct.
It's not a fallback. A fallback is if the XP8 gets disconnected from the other brains, it just automatically
it has to go to default.
Does something that you told it to do, regardless of what's going on. It just does it. So, if the temperature is at 60 degrees, but the fallback says turn off, it'll turn off the thing. While on the XP8, because it has a brain of its own, is if it gets disconnected, it can still make decisions
Yep.
on the outlet. So it's even better than an
Yeah.
outlet.
So that gets into that whole, Wi-Fi, internet argument that, people want to throw around. This the brain. Once it's programmed, if you lose that, you're still running.
Yeah,
Nothing's changed. There's
you
actually
still
two computers inside of that XP8 that are running.
abs. Hmm.
So it's a lot of thought went into it, and it's a very robust
The compu-
device.
yeah, and the thing about it is the computer chip that is on the X4 is on the X2, it's on
Mm,
the XS, it's on the X3, it's on the X8. We did not skimp and made this modules,
right.
where they can't make a decision. Each device can make a decision. And that's why we say that you can start with any of the devices, because
Yeah.
any device will get you started. All devices work by themselves, and they can become part of a network, you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
So the next one we have is the Wave Engine LE, you know,
Yeah.
and this one is actually kind of a cool one. It's a, we have, it can power two pumps, but it's not just any controller. The versatility of it is it can power two pumps of different brands. It can power Reef Octopus pumps on one port, and then it can power gyre, or it can power a MaxPick gyre, or an ice cap gyre, or even
Hmm.
a jump gyre on the other port. So you don't have a controller that you necessarily have to have two of the same pumps. You can actually mix and match, which is what makes it amazing. It's a great thing. It also has 0 to 10 volt in, so you can even add a button box, or you know what? I hate to say it, but if you want it, you know what? If you like the Wave engine and you want the versatility, but you have the other controller, you can connect it to the other controller via 0 to 10 volt in, press feed on the other controller, and the Wave engine LE will do the same.
Yep.
So we play nice. We
Yeah.
do.
We try.
We try. We
We
try.
want to.
We try. We want to. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Which brings me to the next one, which is our new one, our new baby. It's the Wave Engine version 2.
Yeah.
So, Dave, what is the difference between the Wave? What is Wave Engine 2?
Well, Wave Engine 2 is now can be a master in a collective. It doesn't have to be a standalone. It can be its own device within the collective,
Correct.
and so that's the main difference. The limitations aren't much different. Um,
It can still do everything that it does everything that the version 1 can
yeah.
do. In addition to, it can also be a collective. And technically what happens is, the story is mainly is the Wave engine was the first Hydros to be developed and released.
Yeah.
And when it was released, I mean, I'm sorry, it's 4 years old now.
3 years. Yeah.
3 years, and technology changes so much. 3 years ago, we were not, the collective wasn't there and everything, so it was just the hardware wasn't there to do it.
It was
So
still
now,
in development on
yeah,
all the control
exactly.
system while we released that product first.
Exactly. So now it's just, the Wave engine was kind of like the odd man out that just
Hmm.
couldn't do what everybody else can. So now we're kind of upgrading
Right.
that Wave engine to do it. So, okay, so the main difference, I'm gonna go back to that one. The main difference between the Wave engine and the Wave engine 1 is that it can control Wi-Fi devices. It
Correct.
can actually control 8 Wi-Fi strips, so a combination of a single outlet, a power strip, a feeder. It can also even show you. It can connect and pull data from the Mastertronic and the Alcatronic. That's what a master makes. You know. In addition to that, the Wave Engine 2 also is capable, and I'm going to say capable. I'm not saying ready. I'm saying capable. It's capable of connecting to Ecotech pumps running non-Mobius
Yep.
firmware. Now, the catch is that the Wave Engine does not come with the wireless RF chip, but it does have a port inside. So if you have an RF chip and you want to control your Ecotech pumps that are running a non-Mobius firmware, you can insert the chip yourself and then that will automatically enable the feature. I mean, as simple as that. So the chips are sold separately. We do not sell them, but you can purchase them aftermarket. And then if you purchase the chip or you have the chip, you can install it and you're good to go. That's it.
That's it.
So again, they are capable. They're not ready. Just want to make
Yep.
sure I'm making sure that that is clear. Okay, cool. So far we've talked about the differences between the controllers. If you like the show, if you like what you see, please head on over to, we're streaming live. I'm sorry, we're streaming live on YouTube and Facebook. So if you like what you see, you can hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. Greg Carroll's constantly telling you to do that, and then hit the the little bell, and you'll be notified when you have a show. We do this every 2 weeks. If you have any questions about the products, you know what, you like what you hear, but you still have a few more questions, or maybe you're confused about something, head on over to support.coralview.com and submit a question, and you'll have one of our techs get back to you, usually within a few hours, within a few business hours. Let me clarify again, business hours, business hours. All right. And if you don't want to submit a ticket, you can head over to forum.coralviewhydros.com. And there's a community of people in there. Become part of the community. And first, you're going to get help. Before you know it, you're going to be helping somebody else. And that's the name of the game. We like that. All right. So continuing with our differences here, I have another question in here. It says, what devices can you connect to the 0 to 10 volt port? And that's the next question. That's the next frequently asked question. I think it's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Dave?
What about the Tunzi pumps?
I know. You know what? I saw Roger over at Reefstock. Roger. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
I mean, Roger at Tunzi, he's a stand-up guy. I mean, it's like you can't help but love the guy. And we really he works with us. He's always willing to answer questions and everything. So big kudos to and shout out
to Roger and Sons.
To Roger and Tunzi. And he was telling me even Tunzi is having issues getting chips, man.
Oh yeah, it's real.
It's real. It's real. So Tunzi is there. You need an adapter. What about Reef Octopus? The Octopus pumps.
Yeah,
there you go.
0 to 10. Yep, on the control.
The thing about the Octopus pumps is that they're so versatile that they can do both. You can connect them directly to the wave engine, but if you already used up your ports and you still have another Octopus pump, you can still have the wave engine control them through 0 to 10, which is amazing.
Also the big pumps, Carlos, at a 36 volt. The wave engine only supports up to 24 volt DC pumps.
That's correct. And I was going to go right to the various pumps. So the various pumps, it can actually do the 36 volts. So the various 6 and the various 8 are 36 volts, which are not compatible with the drive ports, because the drive ports are 24 volts.
Yeah.
So 0 to 10 is your option. And then Abyss. Abyss has a 0 to 10 volt input as well. So you can the little wave engine can tell the big Abyss pump what to do. It's going to boss it around. Yes. So that's good. Okay. So next question. What devices can you connect to the 0 to 10 volt in. So that's the next question. And I think I like that one. The pumps are the obvious thing, but the in is the cool thing. In the in we have float switches, we have magnetic door switches, which we have an entire show on float switches and magnetic door switches, and it's one of the most watched shows. So again, if you head on over to YouTube or subscribe, and then you'll be able to search through our archives and check out the workshop on 0 to 10 volt in, and it was really cool. And we also have buttons. You can actually attach buttons, and I know Jeff Bernadette over at JPJ Aquatics, he makes those buttons. So
shout out to Jeff for that. So
shout out to Jeff. If you want to be able to push a button to start feed, just get on with Jeff, and he'll hook you up with the equipment, which is kind of cool. Yeah. All right, next question. Do I need to calibrate my pH probe?
No.
I think that can go either way.
Either way. Out of the box, we tell people you don't have to.
Out of the box, you don't have to. I mean, well, technically what you do is you connect the probe, and then you don't calibrate it and test it
Yep.
and test it. And if the probe comes back, at 7 or 10, once you put it in all in the fluid, then it doesn't need calibration. Now, if you have an older probe, then you probably will need to calibrate it.
Mhm.
So that's what we do. Usually, if you're having issues with the probe, I have a brand new, I get this question all the time. I got a brand new probe, I calibrated it, and it's off.
Mm.
I usually tell people, and here's the steps. First of all, delete the probe from the output, create a new probe with a new name. So call it something else, and
Mhm.
then do not calibrate it. Upload, and then, like I said, take this and then contact me in the day. So
Yeah.
no, so again, delete the probe, recreate it with a new name, do not calibrate and upload, and then test it. And you'll see most of the time it's good. I mean, the circuitry that we put on that control and the X4 and the X3 is insane. And the isolation, the galvanic isolation is
Digital
just,
galvanic, I should
yeah,
say.
yes,
Yep. So that, not getting too technical, but that was something, our engineers are really proud of and what they're doing with that digital galvanic isolation.
exactly.
It's a very accurate process and what it goes through.
Absolutely. All right. So next question. Now we're getting to a little bit of a different question here. My Wi-Fi strip keeps clicking off.
Hmm.
The button's turning off. Okay. So what's happening is, if you have one of the newer Wi-Fi strips, if you purchase a Wi-Fi strip within the last few months, couple months, you probably got one of the Wi-Fi strips with a brand new firmware. You know,
Yep.
um, and the firmware actually is a little bit slightly different than the original Wi-Fi strip. So what happens now is, if you don't ask me why, but if you turn off all the outlets on the Wi-Fi strip, the power button also turns off, which makes it look like the Wi-Fi strip is dead. But as soon as you turn one or more outlets from the on the Wi-Fi strip, the power button turns on. So just because the power button turned off doesn't mean the Wi-Fi strip turned off. That
Hmm.
just means that, hey, I don't need to be on because everything is off. So I'm going to show you that everything is off. So that's the big thing. So just FYI, if you turn the last outlet, if all the outlets are off on the Wi-Fi strip, there's a possibility that the power button will also turn off.
Hmm.
Don't panic. Just turn something back on, and if
Yep.
it turns back on, then you're okay. You're good to go. That it's normal. All right. All right. So those are the frequently asked questions that we've covered. Those are the ones that we did. And again, if we haven't covered your question, then we'll probably cover in a future show. So
Yep.
we also looked into common mistakes. So we actually have the brings me to a new segment. It's called our common mistakes segment. All right.
All
These are
right.
not frequently asked questions. This is common things that people do that they probably shouldn't do.
Hmm.
So we're going to help you here and do it. So the first question is, or the first thing is, help. My collective is not working. My collective broke. My collective is not working. All right. So here are a few things that you can do and you shouldn't do when you're creating a collective. First of all, you cannot add an unregistered device to a collective. If you try, you won't find it. So if you
Hmm.
go to the software and try to add a device that is not registered to the collective, you won't see it as an option. How do we know that device hasn't been registered, Dave?
It's breathing pink or
Yeah.
purple. Yeah.
Look at the picture. Now we don't have a video there, but you can see the pink right there. If
Hmm.
your device is pink like that, that means it is not registered. So you're not, and I repeat, not, big NO. You're not going to be able to
That's
add it
like
to a collective.
brand new device that come off the
Exactly.
production line. It's never been
You
touched, essentially.
technically you're trying to add something that is not there yet. Okay, so first you register it, and then you can add it to the collective. Okay, second common mistake, you've registered the device and everything is there, and then you add it to the collective and the collective breaks. Well, my question is, did you check to
Hmm.
see the status screen? Were you able to see the did you connect to the device and see the status screen before you added it to the collective. And that's the big one. All right. So if you add a device to the collective, you have to first go to the individual device and make sure that you can see the status screen. So on the left, we're giving you an example. That's a Wave Engine LE that I registered, but then I unplugged it. So it says not responding.
Mhm.
If I try to add that to the collective, I'm going to get a collective broken and it's not going to work. So on the right-hand side, you see a Wave Engine LE where it's on, it's happy, and I can see the status screen. That is a device that I can add to a collective. If I add a device to the collective, you're going to be okay. So left-hand side, no status screen, don't even try. First, you have to fix that no status screen, and then you can try it. So again, you cannot add a device to a collective that is not actively connecting to the cloud. All right. And then the last thing that I've noticed from the support portal is people create a collective on the app before they physically connect all the devices with the command bus cable. You cannot do that either. You have to physically connect everything first, and then you go to the software and create the collective. All right.
Yeah, good.
So those are those are kind of a cool thing. Another thing that I've noticed is, sometimes the collective is, you create the collective, you can see the status screen, but as soon as you create the collective, all of a sudden the devices are switching back and forth. Then they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on the status screen. You're like, what the hell's going on? And usually that means there is no terminator.
Yeah.
Now, explain to me, Dave, what is a terminator?
A terminator is basically it's part of the a Dolly protocol, which is what we use.
CAN bus, not Dolly.
Sorry, I'm thinking I had Phillips on my mind today.
No problem.
Yeah, but CAN bus is our protocol, and so that is having that terminator at the end of a beginning or end of a line is basically almost like a filtering point, and it makes everything run smoothly. It's not a hack. Some people are like, what is this goofy little thing? It's just a part of what they recommend in using that protocol.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, a terminator, and I'm hoping that our producer April can put the picture up right now, please. There you go. A terminator is something that needs in the collective. As you can see, we recommend that you put it on either end, or at least on one of the ends, but ideally on each end.
Yep.
As you can see right there, there is a Wave Engine on the right-hand side, and then there is a Control 2 on the left-hand side. And you see the terminator is on the blue port. And as you can see, the terminator actually has a blue color in it. And it's on the blue port on the Control 2, and it's on the blue port on the Wave Engine. And that is the correct way to create a collective. You could also, another example would be going to the next picture right here, or the next slide. Okay. And that would be on the left-hand side, you have a Control X4. Then you have a Control 2 and another Control 2 on the right-hand side. You can put a terminator on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side, you see the power supply. So there's no place to put the terminator. But the thing about it is that our power supplies already come with a terminator already incorporated into it. So the terminator and the power supply are together. So technically, there is a terminator on each end. And then we go to the next slide. All right. And that's a little bit of a collective that is a little more complicated. You have a Wave Engine on the right-hand side. Then you have a Control 4, followed by a Control 2, and followed by the XP8. Again, as you can see, on the right-hand side, on the blue port, you see a terminator. On the left-hand side, you see a terminator on the blue port. But the great thing about this setup is that the 60-watt power supply, the internal 60-watt power supply on the XP8 is powering the brains on the X2, on the X4, and on the Wave Engine. But if that were to fail for some reason, we use Meanwhile, but it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Then the power supply on the Wave Engine on the right-hand side would then go the other way around and power the X4, the X2, and the brain on the X8. It wouldn't power the outlets, but it would power the brain, which then the brain would say, hey, there's something going on,
Yep.
and let me tell somebody, instead of just going complete silence and not saying anything at all.
Yep.
So, those are great things of doing redundancy. You have power on both ends. So if one fails, the other one takes over.
Exactly.
That's kind of a cool thing. All right. So now we have my HYDROS app says device not responding. I've tried everything. All right. So my first question when I get that at the support portal is what color are the LEDs?
Yeah.
I'm not asking, that's the first question. Immediately. First question is what color are the LEDs? The LEDs are supposed to be blue.
Yep.
Okay. By default, blue means I'm happy. If the LEDs are blue, then we can start digging into, there's an issue there. Well, yeah, there's an issue, but it's a little more, a more intricate or darker issue. But, let's start with the simple stuff. If the LEDs are other color than blue, like yellow or red, that means you have Wi-Fi problems. So instead of trying to troubleshoot with the app or troubleshoot by resetting the device, those are Wi-Fi related. Okay. So then you can actually proceed to, reboot your router, reboot the controller. And then then usually that helps the connection. So, so if you find a problem, don't reset the controller.
No.
Resetting the controller is kind of like the nuclear option. and we all know a nuclear option is a last resort option. You have no idea how many times, Dave, I get somebody at the support portal that says I was having issues, so I reset the controller. And I'm like, you went from 0 to 100, before you
Right.
can even troubleshoot. If you reset the controller, you literally remove options from the table.
Right.
You're removing any troubleshooting option. It could be something as simple as just restarting your router, but because you reset your controller, you're creating more work for yourself. So please, resetting the controller is your last, and I mean last resort.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So another issue that you could be having of why the controller is not connecting is because mesh networks. Okay. Mesh networks. The HYDROS is only compatible with 2.4 gigahertz networks. That's it. It's not compatible with Fi.
And why is that, Carlos? Because we
so here's
equate, it being like it's an old technology or
exactly,
and that's not the case. We're looking for power. We're looking for amplitude modulation in the radio world. So we want to get the signal out there. We're not looking so much for speed.
So what happens is the 2.4 gigahertz is a much stronger signal.
Yep.
It can actually reach further. It cannot carry as much data, but it can reach further. It has a better strength of passing through objects and getting to a destination. The 5 gigahertz, on the other hand, is a much faster band. It can also carry a lot of data. But when you're faster and you can carry a lot of data, there's a trade-off. And the trade-off is you do not have the same reach as the 2.4. So an example would be, I'm just exaggerating. An example would be the 2.4 can make it through 100 meters. The 5 gigahertz can only make it through 50. So this is an exaggeration, an example, but I'm just trying to get the point across.
Right.
So the 2.4 is not old technology. The biggest example I can give you is AM FM. AM is not going anywhere. We're in 2022 and it's still not going to go anywhere because it can carry, you could drive 50 miles out of New Orleans or 50 miles out of Chicago and I still can pick up AM stations. I can't pick, I drive 10 miles out of Chicago and I can't pick up FM. Same thing. So it is not the 2.4 gigahertz is old. is 2.4 gigahertz is a better band for this purpose, which is low data, but we need to be strong to keep
That's
that
it.
connection. Okay, so another problem that could cause status not found is what I call line of sight.
Yep.
Line of sight, and it's actually one that many people don't think about, but it is critical. And I actually had somebody today that was having that issue, and then I asked them to move the devices, and as soon as they moved it, the issue went away.
Mhm.
Okay, line of sight is Wi-Fi cannot travel through water.
Yep.
Look at the example on the left-hand side. You see the green router. You see the signal is on the top left. The router's on the top left, and the controller is immediately right below the tank water. So if you were to draw an imaginary line between the router and the controller, you have to make sure that there's no water directly in the path. If it is, what happens is that water creates a dead spot on the other side. There's a reason why you never see a Wi-Fi underwater camera. There is no such thing, because technically, after 2 inches of water, Wi-Fi is dead. So on the right-hand side, you see how on the room next door, right above the shelf, there's an access point. Now, the access point, if you draw a line between the controller and the access point, there is no water in the path. So even though the controller has no direct line of sight to the router, it does have line of sight to the access point. Therefore, the controller will pick up the Wi-Fi. So this is incredibly important.
Yep.
It's incredibly important. Now, also notice how we said mesh network. We didn't say wireless mesh network.
Mhm.
Okay. Wireless mesh network are okay, and we'll cover that a little bit later. Okay, so the thing about it is you have to make sure, and this happens a lot with feeders, because feeders usually go on top of the tank in a corner in the back, and
Yep.
the router somewhere else, most likely. And that's what happened with the customer this time around. The feeder was on the right hand side of the tank. I had him move it to the left hand side of the tank, and where there was line of sight, and the issue went away.
Mhm.
Okay, so all right, and then the biggest thing also is the other reason why status is not found or device not found. It has to do with the quality of the Wi-Fi. All right, Dave, you've heard this one. You've heard
Yep.
about this one. The quality of an ISP, Internet Service Provider router, it's no secret.
Nope.
They're
Trash.
really,
Yep.
yeah, and why? Think about it. You have millions of subscribers, and you have to give this router to millions of people. What are you going to do? You're getting those routers from a manufacturer overseas, and you're paying $1 or $2, maybe $3 for that router. Now,
They want to cut
please,
costs anywhere they can.
exactly. So please tell me, a router that is $10, is that going to give you good quality Wi-Fi?
No.
Probably not. Another thing I'm going to give to actually make my point: when you have internet speed issues and you call your internet service provider and tell them, it's like, hey, I'm not getting 900 megabytes down.
Mm.
Your internet service provider will tell you, disconnect from Wi-Fi, connect your computer directly to the back of the router or the modem, and then test the speed. So even
Yeah, they know.
they know that Wi-Fi is not reliable. They
Yeah.
will ask you to hardwire your computer to the back of the modem, and if you don't do that, then they can't guarantee the speed.
Guaranteed it. Yeah. What they have.
Exactly. They can't guarantee.
Yeah.
Also, they don't say 900 down. They say up to 900 down. Exactly. So even if you go to Best Buy or Micro Center or something, or Amazon or whatever, and you purchase a $50, $100 router, that there's a very, very, very good chance that that router at that price is still going to be better than whatever the internet service provider gave you.
Anything out there you recommend, Carlos?
Yes, we actually have. If you have an internet service provider router, I'm not saying, and Dave and I and Corby, we're not saying that you should go and buy a $300 router.
Right.
No, I'm going to make that clear. We're not saying you should buy a $300 router, but you can economically add what we call an access point that will cost you, well, you know what? 2 months ago, it was $25. Today it's about $40, but that's about everything. But it costs you about $40. And that access point, that $40 access point is probably better
Yeah.
than the router than your internet service provider gave you. So you can create an access point. I get this question asked all the time: what's the difference between an access point and an extender? Because I go online and I see extenders, and they both can do the same thing, but they do it differently. And I'm going to ask April to put that picture in there. And I think I'm jumping a little bit ahead, and it's 18, picture number 18. All right. And there you go. On the left hand, we have a device that it's a Netgear EXT 3700. We recommend it. That's the one that goes for about 30, 40 bucks. But on the left-hand side, it's set up as an extender. An extender means that it's connecting to your router via Wi-Fi. So it's taking your router's Wi-Fi and then pushing it out even further. But you're still relying on connecting to the low quality router's Wi-Fi. So if the router's Wi-Fi goes down, then the extender is left pretty much out there hanging out and with no Wi-Fi. So, you're still, even though you're adding an extender, you're still relying on the low quality Wi-Fi. On the right-hand side, there's an EXT 3700 that is wired. And you see it right there. There's a cable going from the side of the extender directly to one of the back connectors on the router. That is an access point. And an access point does not rely on the router's Wi-Fi. It actually has a hardwired connection going to the router, and then it creates a Wi-Fi and it shoots it out. So even if the Wi-Fi router, the Wi-Fi goes down, the access point, that little device, is not going to suffer because it doesn't rely on the router's low quality Wi-Fi. It creates its own Wi-Fi. So you should always, when you add these devices, the EXT 3700, which we have it on our website, and we have the instructions on our website on how to do it correctly. You should always set it up as an access point and not an extender. If you do an extender, you're pretty much back to square one. If you do it as an access point, then you are actually okay. All right, but going back to the other one right here, let me go back in here. All right, so so the routers. Point of the story: internet service provider routers are. I'm gonna be like, all right.
Yeah.
All right, another question. I just bought the Wave engine to control my gyres, and it does not work. I get this all the time. I get it all the time.
You got to tell the pump something to do. That's
exactly. Biggest example I do is you buy those nice universal remote controllers.
Yeah.
Okay, so a universal remote control, there's no way in hell you just put the battery and then and the remote controller will automatically know the brand of TV, the model of TV, the brand of your audio system, which speakers you have, what's left, what's right, and then which DVD player, which Blu-ray player, which vinyl player you have. It doesn't. Even if you put the batteries, it doesn't. You still have to tell it what you have and how you want it to run. So not only do you have to tell it, I have a Samsung TV, I have a Yamaha sound system. Then I have to create an action that says, turn on my Samsung TV and put it on input. So you have to tell it what to do. It's not going to read your mind. So the Wave engine is the same thing. When you get the Wave engine, you have to tell it what pump you have, and then you have to create a schedule that tells the pump what you want to do. What to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick for everybody. Just a very simple example. I'm going to have April share my screen on the other side right here. Okay. So I have an ice cap controller here that's completely empty. So the first step is going to be tell the controller what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to outputs, and I'm going to go ahead and create an output. And I'm going to call it, gyre. Create. Now I can select the gyre I need. So I'm going to select one of the gyros right here. I could do the ice cap 100 or 200 or something. I don't have anything connected to it, so I'm just going to leave it as a demo pump. But again, even as a demo pump, I am specifying what I have connected to it. Then, tell it on the gyro, you tell it which device port, 1 or 2, and then what speed you want and so forth. Okay, so that's like telling your remote control, I have an LG TV.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that tells it what you have, but it doesn't tell it how you want it to run. So the next thing you have to do is you got to tell us, how do you want the pump to run? So I'm going to go ahead and go to schedules. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go back to status. So on the status, you can see right here, look, it's gyro, it says idle, and nothing is going on. And I get this all the time. You know what? It's not running. It's not working. It's broken. I need a new one. I need a new one. So what you do is, it's a simple solution. Now you have to tell the controller how you want the pump to run. So I'm going to go to schedules. I'm going to create a new schedule. And I'm just, you know what? I'm going to call it day, just for today. Call it day. Now you have the pattern. I'm going to select sine wave. Now 100 speed, select the gyro. If I have more pumps, I can add more. Obviously, I don't have any more, so I'm just going to keep it as 1, And then I want the pump to run from 8 in the morning to 10 p.m., which is 2,200 hours. Okay, run every day and run Monday through Saturday and upload the changes. So now you've actually created that action. You told the remote control, okay, turn my LG TV on and put it on input number 1. Now you actually told it what to do. So if you go back to the status, take a look at that. See, now the pump is actually running. That's it. So it's not that the gyro or the controller doesn't work. It's that you still have to. It's a universal controller. You still have to tell it what to do. Okay, that's it. All right. So that's one of the biggest questions I have is, how's the gyro working? So it's actually pretty easy, And again, the problem is that we've been trained for the last 20 years on one thing, and that's it. Or our controllers, our pumps, you buy a pump directly from MaxSpec with a controller, and then you turn on the pump. Well, that's because the controller can only control that pump, one pump, one model, one pump. That's it. So there's, at that point, it's like, okay, I don't have to make the decision. But with a wave engine, you can connect a gyro, an ice cap gyro. You can connect a MaxSpec gyro or a Reef Octopus pump, or a Tune CV, a 0 to 10. So the controller doesn't, the wave engine doesn't know what you have attached to it until you tell it what you have.
Yep.
That's all right. All right. Let's see what we have here. Okay. The gyro is running at 100%, but it's not moving any water. I've had this a lot. Okay. So it's like, it's running at 100%, but the pump is hardly moving any water. So we have, there is a feature on the pump, and I'm going to go back to here right there, and I'm going to go and create that gyro, edit the pump, and I'm going to change it to a gyro 150. All right. So we have this feature right here is invert rotation. For some reason, for some unknown reason, some pumps, when they come out of the factory, they run in reverse. By default, they run in reverse, like their go-to status. When they don't get any information from anything, they go right to reverse, and some go forward. So instead of us having to send you another pump and try to and hopefully it'll run in forward, we decided, there's nothing wrong with the pump. It's just by default, it's thinking backwards. So we added this little feature called invert rotation. So if you turn that on, then the pump will, by default, change the rotation to the opposite.
We reverse the polarity, basically.
Exactly. You're grabbing the wires, and I mean, it's not as simple, but technically that's what you're doing. So then if your pump is running at 100%, but it's not pushing it's hardly pushing any water, just go into the pump setting option, either turn this on or turn it off, whichever you have, do the opposite, and then most likely the problem will go away.
Yeah.
That's it. Simple stuff. We try to keep it simple, right? All right. So This segment again is as we said early in the show. This whole workshop is sponsored by the Jump Gyre, and then from now through March 31st, we will have the jump line at 20% off.
Yep.
So
that's the complete max spec jump line.
Yes, yes, at 20% off, which is kind of cool. Look at that, 20% off, and the complete max big jump line. Again, it says sale ends March 31st, 2022. So don't come back on April 1st and ask me to extend the sale. I can't say I didn't tell you so. Okay, it's valid on all the jump lines. It's while quantities last, there are no rain checks. Okay, so on the next segment, we're going to talk about some tips and tricks of running the HYDROS. But before that, let's have a word from our sponsor. Welcome back, everybody, to CVtv Workshops. I'm your host, Carlos, and my co-host, David Dawkin, owner of CoralView. And welcome back.
Yep.
So far, we've had a pretty good show.
Yeah, April's knocking it out again with those videos.
I know, I'm telling you, man. They're getting now she's got movement and music. And, gee, it's like we're going to have to submit her to some kind of, award. Where you get award for online commercials or something like that. I think she would give them a run for their money.
Yep.
Absolutely. So welcome back. We're covering frequently asked questions about the HYDROS, and we've gone through it. If you like the show, if you like what you've seen, please hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the thumbs up, and you'll be notified right away when we have a new show. Also, if you have any questions, more detailed questions about a product, a HYDROS product, you can always head on over to support.coralview.com, and one of the techs is going to be very happy to answer your questions. Also, if you like the online community, you can always head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com. It's a community of fellow HYDROS users, always willing to help. And as I said earlier, first, you'll be asking questions. Before you know it, you'll be answering them, which is kind of cool. It is cool.
Yep.
All right. So we got some tips and tricks segment. Now, here are some of the tips and tricks that we kind of recommend all the time. All right, Dave, I'm going to go with the first one. And I know you like this one.
All right.
Invest on a good router.
Yeah, for the money, save yourself a lot of hassle.
Exactly.
Even if you're not using HYDROS, you'll notice a big difference with a quality router throughout your home or office. It's a key.
Yes, it's definitely a key. I always hear, well, everything else is connected to the router, right, but the HYDROS keeps telling me disconnect. Here's the difference. I don't think there is any common Wi-Fi accessory at home that will send you a notification if it's disconnected.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. If you happen to open the app while the device is down, you'll notice that it's disconnected. But be honest, you don't know if it's been disconnected for days or it's been disconnected for 5 minutes.
Mm.
They're not there. It's not in their best interest to tell you that it's disconnecting from Wi-Fi, because that
Right.
means more support for them. So they're not. So when somebody tells me everything is connected, I finish that of that
Yep.
you don't know if it's disconnected or not, because it's not telling you if it's disconnected. So the Hydros is kind of like the device at your house
Hmm.
that serves as a watchdog, that is
Right.
constantly watching your Wi-Fi, and if it goes down, it'll let you know. So yes, there is the possibility that the Hydros is the one with the issue, but let's not negate the
Yeah.
possibility that also your Wi-Fi could be going down.
Yeah.
Just saying that. So invest in a good router. All right. Uh, we highly recommend to get an access point. You know,
Yeah.
so if you don't want to buy the router, you want to spend $100 or whatever for the router, you can always go with a more economical version, which is an access point. It will cost you about $40. And I'm going to emphasize it again: an access point versus an extender. An access point is wired. And I'm going to ask April again to put picture number 18. An access point on the right hand side is wired. It's wired directly to your router. It doesn't rely on the router's Wi-Fi to grab onto that Wi-Fi and push
Hmm.
it out. It creates a new Wi-Fi. On the left hand side, you have an extender. An extender is a device that grabs onto the Wi-Fi from your router and then pushes it out even further. But if you have a router that keeps dropping the Wi-Fi, then you are pretty much back to square one. Okay. So that's the difference between an access point. And we also recommend, we actually have tested this one for a while. It's a Netgear range extender, EX3700. So I'm going to ask April. There you go. And there you go.
Yep.
Notice how that is in Jeremy's house. Notice how Jeremy has the blue wire right next to connected to it, because he's got it set up as an access point, not an extender. So that makes a big difference.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to just say, Carlos, if people are overwhelmed with the whole Wi-Fi thing, get an XP8.
Yes,
And don't worry, connect to it, program it, and don't worry about it.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. All right. Next one. Next tip and trick. Next tip.
Yep.
When you get stuck, do not reset the device. Contact support.
Hmm.
That's what we're here for. Okay. So think about it. Resetting the device is your nuclear option. And by definition, a nuclear option is your last resort. So please don't reset the device, because the moment you reset the device, you take all possible options out of the from the table. You take them off the table. You know, I could have we could have restarted the router, or we could have just, contact support, and we could have recovered it from a backup. But if you reset the device, you take all those options out, and then it makes it more difficult for us to help you.
Yep.
So, resetting the device is your nuclear option, and it should only be done if you know what you're doing, or if one of us in support asks you to do it. But even us, we don't really ask people to reset the device, because most of the time we can help you out,
Yep.
you know fix it without resetting the device. Okay. Next one: you have access to backups. Backups are your friend.
Mhm.
And that's what makes the Hydros so awesome, is that you actually have backups. And the reason why you have backups is because we want to make it easy for you. you know um uh, I'm going to have April share my screen again, and I'm going to show you right here. Look at this. You have backups. The Hydros, by itself, without you telling it, it automatically keeps a copy of the last 20 changes that you have made on the cloud. So if you make a mistake, if, let's say, something happens and you lose your configuration, don't go and redo everything by scratch. If you want to do it, that's fine. I mean, I'm all for that. But there's an easier way. You can just go to your backup, you know, go to your records, which is you can find under your device properties. Scroll down, see where it says review archive versions, and then right there, look at that. So I can go back to a change that I made at 1508, or I can go back to a change. Look at this, a change that I made on February 23rd at 12:40. I can just hit load and then click OK, and then upload changes. So thank you, April. Okay, so you can see that right there. Backups are your friend. Okay, so if you reset the device, you can still do backups, but nuclear option. Don't go and do everything again. You don't need to. We keep a backup. And I know, again, you've been trained for the last 20 years that there are no backups, or that you have to download your backup, and then, or you don't even have a backup. I think you just print out a what we call a dump of what you have, and then you have to manually recreate everything, which is not. Come on, it's 2022. It shouldn't be. So we have backups.
Yeah,
backups are your friends. Okay, and then point number 5, which is the big one. If you have connectivity issues, no status, or your Wi-Fi strips fell, they're not connecting to Wi-Fi, don't reset the Wi-Fi strips. Don't reset the device. Before you do anything, do the following. Number 1, restart your router and your modem, or your access point. So if you have an access point, restart the access point and restart the router.
Easiest thing to do.
Easiest thing to do. What happens when your computer freezes? Do you format the drive? No, you restart the computer. Yep. What happens if your Microsoft Word or something freezes and you cannot get it to unfreeze? No matter what you do, you don't uninstall the program. You restart the computer. Mm-hmm. So the same thing. If you are not able to connect to the Wi-Fi, if your Wi-Fi strips are falling, they're coming off the Wi-Fi and they're not connecting, don't reset them. Don't do that. If the router is the problem, no matter what you do, it's not going to work. No matter how many times you try to reconnect, it's not going to work. So the first thing to do, always restart the router, restart your access point, and wait until your internet comes back. Wait until the router, wait until your phone shows the Wi-Fi, and then you're able to browse the internet. Second, restart your HYDROS devices. So restart the collective, and then restart your Wi-Fi strips. Give it a few seconds, and then see if everything reconnects. Chances are things are going to reconnect, and you're okay. And you just spend.
Which way do you recommend restarting?
What is it?
Which way do you recommend restarting? By power or by app?
Yeah, by power.
Okay.
By power, it'd probably be the best thing to do. By power. Okay. So restart the router and access point. Wait until your internet comes back. Then restart your Wi-Fi, your HYDROS devices, and then it'll reconnect. If it doesn't reconnect, then you start digging into other things. But don't go for the difficult things and leave the easy stuff. Sometimes the answer is so easy that you don't even see it.
Right.
Which means that sometimes it just needs a reboot. But sometimes we do all the difficult things before we actually try the easy things. Okay. So, all right. So those are our tips and tricks for HYDROS. I think we cover the basic stuff in there, to make sure that everybody kind of troubleshoots their thing. If the troubleshooting fails, then contact us. You can always contact us at support.corereview.com, and one of the techs is going to be able to help you. Or you can always head over to forum.corereviewhydros.com, and there's it's a great group of folks out there that are willing to help you with any questions you have. And if they can't help you, they'll tell you submit a ticket. They'll tell you to submit a ticket. Okay. So when it comes to support, forum and the support portal are great. Facebook is, I hate to say it, Facebook is bad for support. It's hard. Because you can't ask any private questions. It's like I can't even go into the device and look at the device because Dave Dakin, I don't even have your email address. I can't see your setup. I don't know who you are. Nothing. And I can't say, hey, Dave, send me your, can you post your email address so I can see it, because everybody will see it. So Facebook is bad. Plus, it's really hard to search on Facebook. The problem with Facebook is the same question gets asked over and over and over and over again because it's so bad to search.
Mhm.
So if you go to the forum, then you can easily search, and somebody most likely has asked the question already.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now let's turn to answering some questions from our group in here, from our folks.
Okay.
So I know I've seen a couple of questions in there. I
How
know.
about configuration stale, Carlos? What is that recommendation?
Okay. So full transparency, there's an issue with the bug with the app that is telling you that the configuration is stale. We are pushing a new app out there, but unfortunately, with Apple and Google, they don't approve the apps immediately.
Yep.
They take their sweet time. Sometimes they can take 24 hours. Sometimes they can take 3-4 days to approve an app. As soon as the app is approved, we'll release it, and that'll fix the problem. But you can still access your device and make changes through the web app. So
Yep.
if you go to coralviewhydros.com/app, you'll be able to access them. So we're not leaving you out and hanging. It's just the app is giving us problems.
That's an important tool, Carlos.
Yeah.
I think we should mention more is the web app when there's issues like this, that it is available there for you to go to. You don't have to rely just on the app itself.
Correct. So I have another great question.
Mhm.
Alex is asking, how often do I shave my head?
That's a technical question.
So that's a very technical question. Alex has got in there. Carlos, how often do you shave your head? Because he's a fellow, I don't know what to say in this one right here, but yeah, he's a fellow, challenged at the
Yeah.
top. I don't know. And it's like, I shave almost every day. Shaving your head is way more work than getting a haircut. Dave, how often do you get a haircut?
About every 4 weeks or so.
Every 4 weeks or so. I have to shave every freaking day.
Wow.
Yeah, no. Well, how often do you shave your beard? Let's put it that way.
Daily.
I know, exactly. It's a pain in the ass. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the butt. Yeah. So think about having to shave here, the beard, and the head.
Right.
And then April is saying, try being a woman. I'm not even going to go there. My wife spends probably like 45 minutes in the morning just getting ready. And I don't know how you ladies do it. You're amazing. There's no way in hell a guy could do that. I'm sorry. Nope. I don't know. Nope. Yep. That's it. Okay, another question. Let's see. Says Jacob Lofgren. Thank you for watching. It says the web app saved my bacon. Yes, yep. Yeah, and that's the reason why we put the web app in there. Okay, so you can always bookmark the web app. The great thing about the web app is that you can access it from any device, any computer. You can, you're borrowing your phone ran out of battery. You're borrowing somebody's computer, or you're at you're at a resort in Mexico. You have no internet, and you have to go down to the computer center. You can access it through there. That's the great thing.
Yep.
All right. Let's see what else. Other questions right there.
Here's one we get a lot, Carlos, asking about salinity measure.
Okay.
And, we've addressed that a few times before. And I'll just say, do your homework on salinity probe reviews with other controllers. And you will see that 50% or more people say they're inaccurate. It doesn't work. It's garbage. For me, with releasing HYDROS, could we have released a conductivity probe? Absolutely. Do I think it works reliably? No. And I just can't see selling that to our customers when I know something has issues. There's a lot going on in our aquariums with a lot of pumps and electricity, and it's just it's not accurate. And I just can't see pushing that on somebody when I don't feel good about it myself.
Exactly.
We are working on a salinity measuring device. It will not be through conductivity. Maybe we do look at conductivity at some point if we have the engineering time to look into enough filtration, electrical filtering methods. But right now we're looking at a different option. Totally out of conductivity.
And there are probes out there that are really good, but they're also like
dollars.
thousands of dollars. So anyway, I'm not going to go there. So yeah, conductivity is, people ask about salinity. Unfortunately, salinity is not measured by salinity, it's measured by conductivity. And conductivity is based on electricity. You have pumps, you have heaters. If any of those pumps leak any type of stray voltage, it screws up your conductivity probe and nothing works, which happens often. All right. So Alex has not a question, but I think it's a great statement. Alex said, I think people don't realize that even when you can't access HYDROS, it is
Correct.
still working.
Yeah.
And that is correct. Just because you can't access HYDROS doesn't mean that the HYDROS doesn't know what to do. The app is just a window into the HYDROS device.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the brain. Your phone is not the brain telling the HYDROS what to do. Actually, the HYDROS themselves, we talked about this earlier, they have a computer brain inside. They have the configuration inside. So they're capable of making decisions without you. Probably they'll work better without us tinkering with it.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so the HYDROS is still running. Your heaters are turning off. The HYDROS is keeping track of the monitoring. You might not be able to see it from the app, but you can be certain that it's still running. On the web app, you can see everything. Again, think of the web app and the app as a window into the HYDROS, but it's not the HYDROS itself. All right. Okay. And I have another one right here, which kind of takes us to the same as the conductivity. Is Sawyer is asking any status on different flow meter sizes, and I think that goes back to the conductivity.
We've been
Why?
having, to be honest, totally transparent. We've had them for quite some time. You've seen them with our competitors' product. It's just another one of those. There's paddle wheels inside of these flow sensors. As soon as you get something on them, it totally changes the calculation. We all know what happens. Um, you know, Things grow inside of our aquariums. A slime coat, bacterial coatings. Um, the only thing I could think it's good for is just maybe you're tracing it over time to see a reduction or something happens where a pump fails and
Mhm.
it drastically reduces flow. But
So you're creating a baseline,
yeah,
but
baseline.
then even though the pump could be perfectly okay, but because there's growth or some algae got stuck
Yes.
on the
So you
paddle
feed
wheel.
Dory or something through the system, and now it's stuck on the paddle, and now it's not even moving. We've
Exactly.
seen this. We've done all this testing internally, and
Ugh.
it's one of those things. Hey, we can do it. We could do it tomorrow. It's just, do we want to sell something problematic? I don't know. Maybe we still release it, and just be transparent about it. That's
Correct.
We
Correct.
are looking at some other type of flow sensors.
Mhm.
So maybe that's an option too. But of course, it's a lot more money.
Correct.
Uh,
All right, and then let's for the sake of time, we're already an hour and a half. Let's do one
yeah.
last question.
Yeah.
James Scott, will there be an API access? And yes, it is on the roadmap, but unfortunately, we can't give you an exact release date. But trust me, it is on the roadmap. You should see our list of
Yeah.
of features. It is the size of the Egyptian scrolls.
Mm-hmm.
You could just grab it and go, and just rolls out like that. It's like, unfortunately, there's everybody's asking. We get people asking from all over the place, and they're asking, and then we have to see what people are asking the most and prioritizing. So something could come in that is more important, and it bumps something out. It's just that's just not HYDROS. It's every industry out there. When you're creating a product, is you have to prioritize things.
Mm-hmm.
And we like to do it if we had unlimited time, unlimited resources, but that's not the case. So we have to sit down and prioritize on what we do. Same thing with manual parameter logging. I know it's nice to be able to add your parameters to it, but what do you do with them? It's just to add them and see a graph. You can do that on Excel. I'm not saying that we're not doing it. I'm not saying that we're not going to do it. It's just we have to prioritize what we can do in order to make this product successful.
Yep.
Remember, we are literally 15 months old. The control is 15 months old. We're trying to catch up to other controllers that have been around for 20 years.
Yep.
So prioritization, how do you I'm stuck.
Prioritize.
Prioritizing is the name of the game.
Yep.
The name of the game. See, I got you stuck there, Dave. You know, it's not just me. Yeah. All right, Dave. We've answered a lot of questions.
Yeah, try to. You know, we always try and be transparent in what we're doing, and you know, we can't give away all our secrets of what's coming in the pipeline. We want to have some surprises, but you know, ask anything on the forums or send us an email. We're readily available. So
exactly. So I want to say again, if you like what you see, usually this workshop was kind of a little bit of a weird one, you know, but we're gonna do it again because it's actually kind of fun. But what we're doing is we're answering questions. It's a workshop on frequently asked questions, you know, common mistakes that we make, and then some tips and tricks to make that experience a little bit easier. Okay. So if we didn't get to your question, I apologize for that. Just, you know, we're writing them down and then we will answer it in a future. We'll answer them in a future episode. So if you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, hit the bell. You'll be notified right away when we have a new show as well. So if you have any questions about the products, you know, if you can't wait until the next show, head on over to forum.coralviewhydros.com and join the community. You know, people are there always willing. We have some HYDROS experts that are not paid by CoralView. Let me clarify that. They're not paid by CoralView. They're just people that like the product and they're always willing to help. You know, and if that's not your cup of tea, then just, you know, submit a ticket at support.coralview.com and one of the techs will be able to help you. And sometimes, hey, I even go there and answer questions myself. I like to get involved on the support because I like to see what people are having issues with so that we can actually make the product better. So I try to answer questions and not be kind of like hands off. So I like to get my hands dirty. We all like to get our hands dirty at CoralView. We all do.
Yeah, we do.
We do anyway. So thank you again for watching. This is CoralView Workshops. We stream live on YouTube and on Facebook. We do this every other week. On behalf of our producer, April, who's doing a fantastic job, our graphic designer, Jeremy, my name is Carlos, and my co-host, David Dockin, owner of CoralView. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.